with me. Today we are covering the seven biggest games of week 2 of college football. I'm excited. Will, are you excited?
Yeah. Bunch of upsets this week or last week. Not really expecting it, but let's just kick it off with a good game. Um, Number 19, Wisconsin Badgers losing to Washington State Cougars 17 to 14.
Yeah,
What do you have to say about that, Neil?
we're watching the end of the game right here, and um, personally, I think it was a big win for Washington State, even though they may be well, sorry, not overlooked by by other things. I still think that they could be a dominant force this year, possibly in the Pac-12. Although there is some tough competition.
Now let's talk about Wisconsin for a second here. Wisconsin seems to be struggling a little bit over the past few seasons, struggling in the first few games, or like any game, to be honest. What do you think's happening with Wisconsin there?
I don't know. They are supposed to have a Heisman caliber running back, but I honestly, it's a tough Big Ten this year, and I don't see them really making a difference really, unless they have something they can come back with.
Yeah, Graham Mertz just not seeming to find a real connection with his wide receivers, only barely making it half of only um, making above half of his completions barely with 227 yards. He threw a pick though. Yeah, I just don't see Wisconsin even coming back inside the top 25 this year.
Okay, let's move on to our second game. Our second game, Pitt versus Tennessee. Kind of sad about this one. Pitt started off strong, but did not end. Tennessee's offense was all over Pitt's defense today. Will, what do you have to say about this?
Yes, Tennessee did damage through the air and not on the ground, only running for 91 rush yards, but having 325 pass yards. I mean, Hooker was amazing in this game.
As
He had two touchdowns thrown, and yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of sad about this game and its ending, going into overtime, but we could not score a touchdown. Unfortunately, unfortunately, Pitt will not be able, will maybe be able to get back in the top 10, but so far this offense has not looked very good consistently. I'm just
Yeah,
going to say, Keenan
Keenan Slovis,
Slovis.
the USC transfer, not looking amazing. It looks like they brought in a backup. Uh,
Oh, yeah, he got injured. He got a concussion given.
oh, sounds like he's not going to return in the next game, maybe, but yeah,
Okay,
scary news for them there. Never like to hear any sort of injuries with anyone because that's just sad. Okay, let's move on to our next game, game three.
very sadly moving on. And on to our third game is Notre Dame getting upset by unranked Marshall, the
The
Herd,
Thundering Herd.
the
Yeah,
Thundering Herd, coming from the Sun Belt. I don't know. As a guy that doesn't really prefer Notre Dame, this was a great game. I was very excited. I don't know. I just don't like Notre Dame. Your
Notre
opinion?
Dame with two losses off this year. Two losses. The first one, Ohio State. I thought they played better against Ohio State, to be honest. This was a horrible game. Notre Dame should be really ashamed of themselves. Marshall, though, not having an amazing game either, just kind of running it a lot, but their defense did the trick because held them to
I mean,
21
when
points.
you're playing the eighth team in the country, you kind of want to be Well, kind of want to go out there and just give it all you got. I think Thundering Herd potentially in the next couple of weeks could enter the top 25 if they continue their sway of playing.
Yeah, 2-0 for them. Fighting Irish, however, probably won't even get back to ranked like this season.
Nah, they might. The rankers love them. Anyway, let's move on. So, Texas A&M, number 6, Texas A&M getting upset by unranked Appalachian State at College Station. I have no words really. If you are number 6 in the country, Texas A&M, people are saying you could possibly win the SEC championship. You cannot lose to a team in the Sun Belt. I'm not saying that Appalachian State does not deserve this game. They played way better than Texas A&M, but I do have to say it's a bit disappointing for Texas A&M, who had national championship hopes. Will, your thoughts?
Yeah. Just App State really dominating in this game. The score, though, does not tell that story. The score tells that it was close, but Appalachian State at the end coming out with a win. Texas A&M looking very, very disappointing right now. Their next game was at, I think it was against Miami, if I'm not mistaken, and they're looking to win that game and possibly go in the top 4, but all those hopes are gone now.
Yeah. Let's move on to our
next.
next.
If they even make it in the top 25 next week. Also, Appalachian State quarterback did not do amazing. It was the rushing. The rushing was epic. I mean, just this world. Oh my gosh. Peoples ran for 112 yards. All combined, they ran for 181, more than their pass yards. How often do you see more rush yards than pass yards, Neil?
Not a lot today. Okay, let's move on to our next game. Beat Baylor at BYU next. Honestly, I didn't really watch this game, but BYU looking very strong this season, already with 2 wins. Well, I guess that's as much as they have. They're going. They have a tough schedule, but I think they could be possibly a top 10 team this year after beating Baylor. I think, yeah. Will, your thoughts?
Yeah, for BYU, Jaron Hall throwing no interceptions. Haven't seen that lately in all of our games, but no interceptions with 261 yards. They definitely got it done in the air. He also got 1 touchdown, as well as the backup quarterback Roberts also getting 1 touchdown, only throwing for 22 yards, but with 1 pass. The Cougars did pretty well on rushing. Yeah. Baylor, I thought they could have had it. I mean this. Whenever your game goes into double overtime, you know that these teams are basically pretty equal. But Baylor just getting the short end of the stick, and Cougars pulling away with the victory in overtime.
I mean, maybe Utah fans are kind of glad that they're not facing BYU this year.
Yeah, I actually maybe would like Utah to face them to see how Utah is against BYU.
Okay, moving on to our next game, Florida versus Kentucky. Our next game up is Florida versus Kentucky. Now, this game, it seems like one of the best games of the week. We have 2 ranked opponents going at it. Kentucky winning out here. Florida, I don't know. They had a nice win against Utah earlier, a week before, but versus Kentucky could put some worry on their future in the SEC.
Yeah, Florida's offense just seemed wimpy. I mean, against Utah, they were like doing so well, breaking tackles right and left. Anthony Richardson not throwing any touchdowns with 2 interceptions. The only touchdown they even had was a rushing touchdown. not a great sign for them. Gatorade, Gators, sorry. um, but this is really bad news for all Utah fans because this means that Utah is probably going to get less recognized for losing that game to Florida, which Florida credit, by the way, because they actually did a really good job, sorry. Kentucky, I thought that Florida played better than Kentucky, but apparently they didn't, because Will Levis had 202 yards with 1 touchdown. I mean, that's pretty good, but their running back, Smoke, had 80 yards. A really solid performance by Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's a dark horse for possibly being the a candidate for a pretty big ball game. I think they could put up some major upsets, and they're already on the road here. But I think the only
Yeah.
problem will be this tough SEC game. Speaking of SEC games, our last game of the week and highlighted game, Alabama versus Texas.
So for our last game, Alabama versus Texas. I mean, come on, we're all rooting for Texas here, right? Every single team wants Alabama to lose, get out of those playoffs, so that another team, probably an unknown team, a little team, can get right in there. Also, with the expansion of the playoffs, we won't really have to worry about that, but
Oh, they're getting
just for
expanded?
these few years. But Texas coming up just short. Dang, field goals. Texas, I thought, had the win, but no, Alabama coming out of the gate strong with 10 points in the first quarter, but getting pulled up with zeros in the second and third quarter, but having 10 points in the fourth quarter, just outrunning Texas 20-19. What do you think about that, Neil? I mean, I'm really disappointed, but what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think Alabama, as the number one team in the country, needs to perform better. I cannot, if you cannot destroy, I understand this is a tough Texas to perform better. If it hadn't been for Bryce Young being that clutch, I don't see them winning this game. Even with their great talent, they need to beat Texas, especially with Quint Ewers not even playing.
Definitely, definitely. I think though that Alabama did win this game, so by 1 point. So I think they should get moved out of that number one position because Georgia coming off another win, also beating Oregon 42-3 in that first game. I think that Georgia should move up to that number one spot. Alabama moved down just because of their performance, but Alabama, unfortunately, is still getting the win there against the Texas Longhorns. I would be surprised if Texas isn't ranked by next week, but I'm not the ones making those decisions.
Okay, let's
But yeah,
let's um let's wrap this video up. This was WAN Sports. I hope you had a great time watching us. Signing off for Neil.
yeah. Please consider subscribing. It helps us out and is completely free. Also, comment down below if you want us to talk more about your team, just so we know like who to talk about and stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah, leave a like and subscribe and goodbye.
it'd be helpful if you left a like or subscribe so we know if we're doing what you guys want to see. This is our first video. Week one got corrupted, so hope you enjoyed. See ya.